Mr. Mayor, Madam Deputy Mayor, councilors, and members of the LRT implementation team. On March 28, I sat in this council chamber for 12 hours listening to the 40 presenters and delegations and the discussion that followed. Some presenters were in favor of LRT, and some were against LRT, but all spoke with passion. Over the last 6 months or so, the LRT implementation team held many public consultation open house events. I would like to thank and commend the LRT team for this effort. I was one of the 349 people who completed their extensive questionnaire. However, we, the public, were told that we could provide input on every aspect of the project except the route alignment. At the March 28 meeting here in council chambers, we were told several times that Hamilton City Council has voted 52 times on some aspect of the LRT project. My purpose in speaking to you today is to express my concern over the flawed process in selecting the route. How was King Street selected? Several Hamilton publications have attempted to research this. It seems that a few small groups had input, but there was no widespread public consultation, no opportunity for input from the general public, and no actual vote by this council agreeing with the King Street route. Permit me to read just one sentence from the Bay Observer April issue. On the strength of what was arguably superficial public consultation, the two major pieces of today's transit narrative were set in stone. LRT over BRT and King Street over Main or some other route, end of quote. There was no fair, open, objective comparison and analysis of King Street versus Main Street. It's not too late to correct this mistake. Selecting Main Street would not affect the western terminal at McMaster. It would not affect the eastern terminal at Queenston. It would not affect the location of the operations, maintenance, and storage facility. If the LRT is built on King Street, it will remain there for generations. Why can't we have a fair, honest, objective look at the route? Several councillors recently paid for a public opinion poll. Maybe they might pay for a second one. Or a citywide referendum has been suggested. Let's ask the citizens of Hamilton which route they prefer. The question is simple. Which route alignment do you prefer, King Street or Main Street? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betzner. Councillor Whitehead?
Thank you. I really appreciate your presentation, and I think that it's been pretty clear through the media and other reports that the due diligence that was put on King was never applied on Main, so there wasn't really an option. But here's a couple of other things that I don't know if you are aware of or if you were informed of. Did you know that King Street is 500 meters longer than Main in respect to this LRT project?
I have heard that mentioned, yes.
Did you know that they have to build a bridge on King Street where they wouldn't have to do on Main Street?
I'm aware of that.
Which is another $30 million. The other argument that was given in regards to Main Street, did you know that there's over 400 heritage properties on King Street versus just over 200 on Main Street? You aware of that?
I didn't know the specific number, but I would agree that there certainly are more on King, yes.
Now, one of the arguments that was made is uplift. And then when they presented the charts, and I actually met with Metrolinx, they have now acknowledged, because of the 400-meter sphere of influence and uplift around stations, that the uplift would basically be a wash between King and Main. Were you aware of the changing argument in respect to the justification for King Street?
I certainly agree with that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Mayor?
Madam Chair, I don't have a question of the presenter, but I do have a comment to make relative to how we're going to conduct our day today. And so,
we're going to
like me to do that?
After, you can make your comments after our delegates. If you have a question for the presenter, then we will.
No, I'm going to actually ask that Council consider not using every delegate as an opportunity to ask questions.
That's fine. Your point is made. Mr. Mayor,
no,
this is a time
legitimate point to make. Don't cut me off. Don't cut me off.
I can cut you off because you have no question for the presenter.
It's a legitimate question to raise with Council to ask consideration that we don't spend till next Thursday doing this, because if we're going to use every delegate as an opportunity to make our points, if we all do that, we will be here a very, very long time.
Would anyone like to respond to this?
It's not fair, and I think we ought to make sure that we all have some sense of an agreement that we don't do that.
Yeah, the point of order, Madam Chair, is that procedurally in our bylaws, when delegations make application to come forward and present before this Council, and the practice is that any questions of clarification or otherwise can be posed by this Council body to the delegation. So if you're suggesting we change the bylaws, we can do that, but I don't think we should be doing it on the fly.
Thank you. And no further questions. Do you have another question for the presenter?
Who are you asking?
I'm asking you. Do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question for him. And I appreciate this presentation. And I appreciate the presentation of all the delegates. And I think we're here to hear the delegates, not the Council at large. So to be fair to all of them, I think we ought to pay attention to what they have to say. That's the most important issue today.
Mr. Mayor?
And I would hope that members of Council will respect that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any further questions for the presenter? Seeing none, Councillor Vanderbeek, would you take the chair for a moment? I do have a question, and it is regarding the King Street route, and I have also been trying to figure out how we arrived at that route. Did you actually consult with staff or any members of Council to determine why King was chosen over Main?
The answer to that is no, but I have read a number of different Hamilton local publications, and presumably those reporters who would have access to background information that I might not have access to or might have difficulty accessing, they have come up basically with the conclusion that I put in my presentation today, that there was no clear objective analysis of the two routes and then an objective decision made on King Street that did not occur.
Thank you. And, excuse me, through the chair, I'm assuming from what your presentation this morning that you would have preferred Main over King or another route altogether?
I definitely would prefer Main, because I would make the point in our personal lives and in our business lives, sometimes we have to make the best of a difficult situation. In Hamilton, we don't have to do that. All we have to do is look out these windows and we see Main Street, a straight, wide street that goes from one end of the city to the other end of the city. We've got an ideal solution for this, so I am in favor of Main Street, yes. And I think that because we do have this wonderful opportunity. The street exists, it's straight, it goes from where we want it to originate at both ends. That's what we should do, rather than trying to squeeze it through a very difficult situation in the downtown area.
Thank you for that. Those are my questions. I'll take the chair back. Are there any further questions for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you.